Hey everybody, it's Christian Buckley doing another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm talking today with Buelent. Hello.
Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing well. It's good to see you. Just saying, it's like one of those rare times where I actually got to see you. It's like, hey, we're gonna be doing an interview soon. Oh, that's right. So saw you at MVP Summit. But Buelent, for folks that don't know you, who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity and to be here in your show. I'm based in Germany, more precisely in Hannover. And when I say Hannover, majority of people mostly don't know where it really is because people know Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt. These are the typical German cities where you've been usually there, especially in Frankfurt because you land there and then you just go somewhere else in the world. But Hanover is some kind of, let's say, in the middle between Frankfurt and Hamburg. So it's nice. It's very boring here. Not so many tourists, but we have giant woods here, really in the middle of the city. Really nice. We have a nice lake here as well, and good times here. So if you want to go on walking and have some kind of relaxed moment, this is a good city for you.
Very great. So, and where do you work? What do you do for a living?
So I have started working with Avanade 14 years ago. So that's really a long time for consulting, I would say. Usually that's
That
a
is,
3 year spot where
and,
you just
well, and for
decide,
one company, I mean, that's becoming rare as well.
sure, definitely. But they came, on right time, and I'm very loyal. And when I think things are working out, then I'm sticking and try to give as much as possible. And I would say this company also gave me a lot. That's why this relationship also worked out for such a long time. And yeah, and in the first 10 years, I was a consultant. I had no idea when I started what CRM is, or Dynamics 365, what's now called nowadays in business applications, because my origin was I'm an electric engineer. So, but this is completely different from what I'm just doing. But sometimes that happens when you just study something else and you do something else in your life.
Yeah.
When I just started with that 10 years, then I just decided to go on my next journey, and that was also in Avanade, and that was a learning section. So I was nearly 5 years in the learning section, learned what it is all about learning, limitless learning, and also how to think strategically, how to build up skills, how to build up people, and that comes close to what we just doing in the community, where we want to help others people as well, on their career.
Yeah, and one of those things is it's almost becoming it's fairly common to find MVPs. I know there's about 4,000 MVPs, but a lot of that are MCTs as well that actually take it to that next step. They go get the certification, they go through the learning development class. I can't remember the name of that class as a non-MCT. I haven't committed to memory. But you're finding that more and more because it is a natural part of what MVPs do is sharing information, helping train other people, but from that learning side of that perspective.
Definitely. And for me, I became MCT before, 4 years ago. And someone just asked me, do you want to become an MCT? And I'm like, why not?
Yeah,
Why not trying it out? And same like with MVP as well. Last year, do you want to become MVP? I was also like, why not? It wasn't a goal for me, becoming MVP. It was just people in my company already thought I would be an MVP because I was just teaching on that level already and giving the people already. But I hadn't not really interest in that title because it was like I was happy where I was. But when I started last year in the community, some people make me really crazy with all the new announcements, especially the MVPs in our company. There will great things come. There will great things come, but we
yeah,
can't tell you.
yeah,
And I said, why are you telling me that?
yeah.
And they make me crazy. You have to
Right.
wait to build, 2 months and all that kind of stuff. And they said to me, we can tell you if you become MVP. And I said, okay, if this is the deal, I became MVP. And I said, now we can talk about this. They said, nah, you have to be in the sessions when we can talk about this. Wow, you always building boundaries to me, some kind of.
Yeah. Well, and some people don't understand this too, is that the difference it makes when your company is supportive of the program. I mean, Avanade obviously has a close relationship, co-founded by Microsoft, or out of Anderson, and it kind of that whole history. But Still it's a different company. It's not Microsoft, but they definitely recognize, and some would say that they collect. Avanade collects MVPs. So I don't know. Do you know what even the current count of MVPs at Avanade is?
It should be around 50.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I was thinking, like right in that area. But your organizations that recognize, hey, it's great to give people this path that they want to pursue, that if they fit within that world, supportive of understanding, hey, they're going to have contributions, they're going to be doing other community related things, but ultimately it benefits the company by having people participate in the program. So you're more knowledgeable of what's coming, whether or not you can talk about what's coming. I mean, I'll ask this as a question, like, um, do you, this is a very leading question. Do you can think about and take into account what you know about the future when you're having conversations with customers today? Of course.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
now it's an advantage, but also it's also a burden at the same time, because
Right.
it's NDA and you can't tell, everything what you have just heard.
Right.
But most of the clients we were just talking, like for example, happened today. They know about these NDA stuff, and they know that we can't just talk about that, but we can make them aware of the things will come. We are close to Microsoft Build, for example, which will come in 1 month, and things will be revealed. And if you can give that kind of hints that there will be things coming which will help you on your way, then they are also patient and they say, okay, then we'll wait. It's just 1 month. But Avanade is really supportive for the MVPs, which is really great. But it always stands and falls with the people who have been supporting these. We have some strong supporters of the MVP program. So that's why if you've been accepted for a session like the Power Platform Community Conference, which is in October, and you can imagine these are massive costs which just comes to you. Also the MVP Summit as well. If you got accepted, then you can support it if the funding is there. And then these are immense of costs which just comes like over $2,000, $3,000, just only for flying back and forth. It's over $1,000, €1,000, which just comes. And also driving by Uber in Redmond, that was the first time I've just experienced that. So wow, that's not cheap here.
No, right. And then waiting for them to, it's like, well, well, it's also a lesson for a lot of people coming from the Eastern US that haven't traveled a lot into the West. Is like, there is no public transport that'll get you in most places. Like you need to, and they're not walkable cities. You need to get a car when you're visiting the Western US, period. I mean, we're built around the highways and that access. But, again, having lived in that area, I was also staying with family in town for the MVP Summit. So I was up north, so it took me 30 minutes to get in the morning. But yeah, but it also then allows you to go and do side trips and see other things, like go out to, I always recommend people go, like Snoqualmie Falls is always great. The um, uh, uh, like Mount Si, if you've got a little more time and want a little bit more of a hike and things that are out there. But well, I mean, the other side to that, having a company that's supportive, like I've also worked for companies that were not supportive, and I would even say the leadership team jealous of the fact that like I was speaking at conferences and doing other things. I was like, you don't understand, like our company name is now in these high places because I'm keynoting this event, I'm speaking at these conferences where most of the costs are covered by it, not all of it, or I was paying out of pocket. That got us in there, that you didn't have to go and buy a big sponsorship to get a slot, to get a sponsored speaker into this. You now have me with 2 or 3 or 4 sessions at these large conferences. You should take advantage of that, appreciate that, take advantage of that. But they struggled with that. But yeah, again, it's a blessing to have a company that supports, that recognizes the program and supports that. So we haven't even talked about yet, like your area of focus. So you're a business applications MVP.
That's correct.
And so what's your primary focus? Like, what are you most passionate about? What do you mostly talk about right now, write about? What are your contribution types as well?
So that's Copilot Studio as a subcategory. And I just have chosen this one because last year, when I started with that, as I said, it wasn't the goal to become an MVP. It was a goal that I should create a training when I was still working in the training department for Copilot Studio because there were barely nothing. There was that, let's say, basic trainings from Microsoft, but we really wanted to the real sauce, go deep into it, how to explore, how can make it, useful or usable in client projects. And these were the questions which I couldn't answer. And then I just looked for someone around who can help me. But as always, like nowadays, people are busy in their projects, don't have time. The majority of non-MVPs or the people who are not really in the community are not really going the extra mile. So they're shutting down their laptop after a certain time, and then that's it. So I just found myself in a situation like, okay, there's also nothing I can buy from this company as content. So I'm going to a conference and look what they're just talking about and getting some ideas. And that's where my community journey more or less have started. Exactly 1 year ago in the Color Cloud, that was the first conference, the very first time Germany established by the great Mats Necker, who is also a MVP for a couple of years now in business application. And then these people were really nice to me. When I was talking to them, they were not biting and they were not grumpy. They were just, answering my questions. I'm like, wow, this is really cool to have that kind of conversations of that level. And that was the idea, just to collect information. And still, I didn't want to become an MVP. I only was collecting information. But at the end, I had so much. I said that would be really a pity if I would not share this one. And then I started sharing this one, in blogs, in a newsletter, and then it became a thing, some kind of. And then there was more or less one category which I just have constantly delivered. That was Copilot Studio, and then I got awarded in this. To my own surprise, I got awarded because I haven't expected that. Everyone just telling me, you have to be careful the first time. Everyone makes mistakes, and you're not known enough, and you have to be prepared. If you just get rejected, you have to try and try again. So I was just lucky that
Yeah. Well, yeah, I always tell people too that it's a bit of a black box. I mean,
it is.
Microsoft selects who they want to say. There's some people, I was one of those people the same where people were like, I just thought you were an MVP because you're doing all these things. I'm like, nope, and I hadn't really thought about it a whole lot. And so then that kind of put the bug in my ear around it. And I should find out, like, what am I not doing now around this? But I always like to ask to kind of validate my experience. Did you have to change anything that you were doing or weren't doing? Did you kind of do more to become the MVP, or were you just doing the things that you were doing and it just happened to fit?
You're asking for the imposter syndrome, right? So you're not
Well,
doing enough.
it's a common thing where I run I co-run a cohort of people that want to become MVPs, that want to find out about the program. We run it as an AMA, as a monthly call. Anybody that's interested, that's watching, can join this monthly call. It's the first Wednesday of every month. And we've had, since we started it less than 2 years ago, we've had now 11 people become MVPs that have been part of our group. But one of those consistent things is that, and I always say this, like, the things that I do, the blogging, the videos, the podcast, the interviews, all the stuff, like, I was doing before I was an MVP, I will do after I'm an MVP. It's just part of me, of my personal brand, of the way it is. But we've had a couple people that have come into that said, well, it would be too much new work. I'd have to change how I'm doing things or do a bunch of additional things to be able to kind of fit into this model. And so they've just said, it's not for me. They were able to kind of answer that question. And I'm not saying that, hey, there's a bunch of things that you need to add it and go and do, but it is one of those where if you self-reflect, sometimes it's a fit, sometimes it's not. It's like, hey, it's all good stuff. It's not saying that you're not doing wonderful things and for the community, but there's generally a pattern to fit into to become an MVP. And I mean, it comes with learning about stuff and then sharing all of what you're learning. That's the common thread.
I would say I haven't really changed my nature. So I was just doing that before. That's why adapting the community stuff wasn't that very difficult to me. I just started that a couple months ago. I had some crazy ideas how I can bring learning internally in Avanade to a new level, and have created some kind of an internal YouTube channel, where I was mostly speaking, but I wanted more or less give others the stage to speak, so to grow up. So that was before I really know what the community was before. And when I just entered in the community, it was like, that's what I'm already doing more or less day in, day out. So that was not really a change. The only change was only I wasn't sure about if this is enough, because no one could tell me. But my mentor always told me, you have an Excel file, you just put in all your contribution there, look at this one, and then you will see if it's enough or not. And for example, a blog post, I was not counting the amount of blog posts as a contribution. A blog was completely even. I wrote 14 articles or blog posts. That was one contribution for me. And I've collected them all. And someone just told me at the end, you mean, what you're just doing is you are just shining so much. You're just doing a slam dunk. Everyone just knows about you already. And I just have increased within 1 year from 700 people over 5,000 LinkedIn users. And one of the contributions was a newsletter which helped shine, and suddenly Microsoft people even subscribe for this one. I was talking in bigger rounds, and one of the things which surprised me, I haven't expected that during the MVP summit, that one of the Microsoft people just came and told me, I was part of the team, we reviewed your application. I was like, okay, wow, it's a black box, but suddenly it didn't become a black box. Suddenly it became something interesting,
Yeah.
and then the person told me you had a very good application. But to be very honest, I think I did more as I maybe should. But if you're the first year in the community, I always felt like I have to do a little bit more and more. Now I can feel a little bit more of, with that 1 year of experience, what I have to do and what not. But once again, I did not do to become an MVP. I just did because it was fun,
Yeah.
and I could help people. And I think if you on that level and you're not stressing yourself becoming MVP, because my experience is at least so far, that people want to become an MVP and just don't get it, and feeling frustrated afterwards and saying like, I'm not doing enough. So sometimes you're just not doing enough. It's not the problem. It's just you have to be the loudest in the shop, like an elephant, just to make yourself aware. You have to be in the right channels. So that's my advice always
You
to people.
do, and yet you still have to have a little bit of humility around that. That's another piece of that, because that's something I advise. Like I had a conversation with a person, remain unnamed, who's adamant on becoming an MVP and just listing off all the things that they've done, and like, I'm more qualified than this MVP, like going off. I'm like, yeah, that approach will
It doesn't
not
help.
work. Will
No.
not work. And so they want people that are in it. Like, again, you and we agree, like, I would do the things I do regardless of the program. It's a cherry on top of the dessert, to have that. It's I feel blessed and lucky to be in the program, the level of access that we have, and the level of visibility we get into the roadmap and other things that are going on. Like, but again, I've worked for partners, so I've been under these NDAs and had access to, in the product areas where I've worked, that deep kind of access. I was already speaking at conferences. I was always writing. Already had co-authored 3 books. Before all of that. But it is, I mean, it's great. So I know that it's kind of, it's kind of a joke now. We jokingly, hashtag humbled and honored to be a part of the program. It's like, but it's true. It's so very, very grateful to be part of the tech community and have that level of access. But the best feeling I get is when you spend all this time because you want to document something. Like, I'm documenting something for my own brain, so I remember it, so I understand it. And then somebody sends that note and says, I was stuck on that. That helped me so much. Love your blog, or that video was fantastic. I mean, I just get the adrenaline that you get from helping people, and that part of it. I mean, I love that aspect of it. So
That's absolutely true. And also, it depends on what kind of MVP you want to be. So you can be a local MVP. So I was, there was that keynote during the MVP summit where you were in the queue and waiting until you get in. And when I was there, I just decided to stay with my German MVP friends just to chat with them around, because there were so many people and I have barely the chance. So I'm not really in that German community group so much in as I would like to, because I started more international. And when I was just talking to them, there were so many friends just coming by, and I just hugged them and said hello to them. And my German MVP friends were just asking, why do you know this person? Where do you know this person?
Yeah.
You're not that long in the community. I said, yeah, but I just already talked with them. I just connected with them. And it's all about connections. So if you're able to connect with a lot of people, and the same with you, Christian, as well. So we connected before we just came to this session here
Right.
today.
Well, that's
And
what this whole series is about. Where it used to be, so I started as 14 years ago as a SharePoint MVP, and I knew all the SharePoint people. I knew the leadership at Microsoft, the product teams, the engineers. Of course, a lot of changed faces, mostly changed now, but a lot of the MVPs and other experts, all the different vendors and things in that space. I'm like, I need to break out of this echo chamber. I want to meet other MVPs. Like, used to go to Summit, and they would sequester us. Like, all the SharePoint people would be in our own building, and that's all we'd see for the entire week. It wasn't spread out. Now it's more like, it's like going to universities. Like, what elections do I want to take? What I want to go. If you wanted to do nothing but go to Azure sessions, you could do that for the week. If you want to do nothing, focus on an area, you can go and learn about these net new things, or hang out with your group of people. So because we didn't have that option, I started this to get to know other MVPs around the world, because I was already traveling all over the world, speaking at conferences, meeting other MVPs. And I thought, what a great way to get to know folks and a little bit about them and their journey to becoming an MVP. And so I get the same comment, people like saying hello to people like yourself when we saw each other in passing there. And, uh, you know, seeing other people at the event, and I've got people that I'm close to, that I work with on a regular basis. Like, how do you know these people from all over? I saw 3 gents on the last day getting ready to leave to go to the airport. Did one last visit over to building 92. I still think of it as the well, the owners that Microsoft bought the building from. But anyway, and 3 from Africa, and I spent a lot of time with past companies traveling over to the African continent, but these were 3 people that I met through this series. Never met them in person before, but like, hey, yeah, and they had
it,
great conversations. But I I always recommend people, it's like, if you want to get started in things, the best people to reach out to have the MVP title, because we are MVPs because of our outreach to the community. So that's a great place to start.
For sure, for sure. But be careful what you wish sometimes, you know. I also say it naively, yeah, I want to become MVP, why not? And then when I just got awarded, it was like, you know, I was like, you know, in a little nice lake, and then suddenly someone just opened the door and the whole ocean of information just rushed in. I really was like in the first 2 months, like, okay, if this is the way you want to kill me, this is a very successful and effective way, you know, floating my mind with information. I was really struggling. And also the MVP summit, when it just came, I was not really very, very good prepared for the MVP summit.
Yeah.
I know now the second time what I can make much better, how I can prepare, how I saw how other MVPs have prepared their questions, also where to go. They were in that kind of knowledge. For me, it was everything an overwhelming week with everything. Fun, lots to learn, but at the end of the night, I was just tired, and even were not able just to
It's a
go
lot.
to any kind of super party, whatever. I just wanted to, you know, search for my
Right.
bed and wanted to sleep.
Well, I always say that it is like drinking from the fire hose. Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
And there's somebody who taught me this lesson. I don't always practice it, but years and years ago, about going to a conference. And whether you have a session or not, you're just there as an attendee, or if you're there, in the booth, you're there with a sponsorship. Have a plan. Like, what questions do you have? experts that you want to connect with, like whatever. Have a plan for that. You're going to find it's going to be a battle between a lot of good things. Like there's no bad things that'll happen. Well, you know what I mean. But I mean, all these good things, and it's really going to be, how are you going to spend your time? Are you going to be focused on, have you answered those key questions? Have you made those key connections that you need for your product, your service, whatever? And so have that plan to give you a focus at the event. MVP Summit's exactly the same. I went there with questions, with specific things that I was looking for answers to. And so sometimes on the fly, I'm just like, look, there's a couple sessions, building your schedule. It's like, well, there's 5 different events. I could see myself sitting in this session, but then having conversations with people in the hall that may help me make my decision. Like, okay, that's the one. You're right. I need to go on this one. I always say that one of the best things about the summit is not the sessions. It's not the questions I have, but it's hearing other people's questions and be like, oh, I haven't thought about that. That is fantastic. I love sitting in so many sessions where, if I know them or not, if somebody asks a good question like that I forgot about that. Yes, that is an issue, or that's a great question. And then afterwards, so I get that information, then I would go connect with that person after the session. Like, hey, we haven't met yet. That was a fantastic question. I also had that and kind of in my back notes. I love that about the interactions, but that should be every event that you go to, whether or not you're MVP.
It really doesn't depend on if you're an MVP or not. Brilliant minds are always out there, always brilliant perspectives. And you can, if you have that mindset to say yourself, even this is not an MVP, you can learn from this person, from this perspective. Because if you're sitting there, it's not always that you get surprised, but sometimes you get surprised by a fresh perspective and thinking like, oh, okay, wow, I have never thought this way. And this is also what I just learned from let's say, the bigger MVPs who've been there for several years, how they work professionally, prepare themselves, and talk with them. And their answers were surprising me. They said, I'm just going to any kind of conferences, events. I'm sitting there because I can learn every day something new. And this is breaking the barrier, or, breaking out of your comfort zone. Being an MVP means you have to be all the time out of your comfort zone. It's not like that I learned something and then that's it, and I can continue with that for the next 30 years. That will not work. Since last year, I'm constantly out of my comfort zone, and which is hard, overwhelming, but at the end, it just gives me a new perspective. And this is where really, it's like a muscle. You're just growing a new muscle. You don't grow it if you just always do the same exercise with the same intents. So, and this is what you already said. If you learn from other perspective, other questions, and go to them and say to them directly, and this is the next step, not just acknowledge, oh, that was a great question. Go to that person, connect with that person with that brilliant mind, and tell them that was a great question. This is the feedback which people also sometimes need to see, okay, I inspired someone.
Right. No, that is one of the hardest things for people that are not MVPs to come into it. It's not that you aren't out there doing things, contributing, helping people, doing those things. It's sometimes hard to feel like, and I struggled with this for years, where I had a manager tell me, it's like, you need to, like, you're not visible. Like, I'm aware of all the stuff that you're doing, but it's not visible. Like, how do we get you more visible out there? It's similar advice for inside the community. Like, how do you do it without be like, hey, look at me, look at all the things that I'm doing. And will somebody kind of recognize that? And so you have to start tracking the contributions, being aware of that, sharing, promoting it, doing it in a non over the top way. It's funny that you said you need to get out of your comfort zone. Kind of the other flip side of that, my wife is always telling me that I make people uncomfortable. I think those are the same things. But no, to track those, to talk about it, to share it. Again, that is something where I had to develop those skills. And I think there's tips and tricks. We all do those in different ways.
Yeah.
But it's again, that's something where go talk to an MVP about that. Like, how do you help surface that so people are aware of the things that I'm doing? And there are a number of things that you can do. So that's
Definitely.
where I see people struggle. I think number one is just to make those things more visible for others. Otherwise, I bet people I'm sure have come to you that come and say like, "Hey, I'm interested in becoming an MVP. Could you nominate me?" I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know what you're doing. And there are other people that I wish they would come and ask me because I know a lot of what they're doing. And if they had interest in the program, then I would submit them.
I mean, it really depends on. So if you're making enough noise, then people will recognize you. So before I got nominated by Microsoft, and someone just nominated me without asking me, just did it. So there were 7 other MVPs who just came and asked politely, "Can I nominate you?" and so on. And then I was already like, oh, okay, I get noticed. But I was always like unsure, said, no, not now. I just wanted to get Scottish Summit in October behind over me. I just want to wait till I have enough contributions and so on. And this guy from Microsoft just did, and I'm like, what the? I haven't filled out my 24 contributions yet, and that just put me under extra pressure just to do a little bit more, just to put everything then together.
Yeah,
But I'm just happy.
it's it's up to 24. It doesn't have to be 24. It's up to. But
I know, but if you're the very first time in the community in your first year and so on, I just want to use and maximize the chance as much as
sure,
possible. So I
of
took
course,
it as much as possible serious, and I said, if I get the chance for 24 contributions, then yes. But now it's a little bit differently. And also some product groups now know me because I was there during MVP Summit and introduced myself, which was important for me as well. Why I was there my first time. People in the community just knows me. It's different. But if you just, let's say, still a little bit unknown, use all your chance for contribution you can get to make aware of yourself.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Well, Buelent, I really appreciate your time. Again, it was great seeing you this year. Maybe I'll see you again this year. I think I might be over your direction a couple times. You back over in the U.S. at all this year? Coming over for any events?
Not for events, but for vacation next month in New York for 1 week.
Can't help
But
you
this
there.
time only for.
Yeah, New York. But yeah, a lot of fun to go and visit. But I'm always happy to come back west from that. I'm just a West Coaster. Sorry, I like mountains. I like the wide open space. It's just a bit too crowded over there for me. But yeah. But well, anyway, for folks that want to reach out to you, want to connect, besides LinkedIn, everybody's on LinkedIn, of course. But are you active in any other social? Like, where are you most active?
LinkedIn is the most active one. I also have a YouTube channel where I just publish from time to time some videos. I started being more active on Blue Sky. I'm not using Twitter or X, how it calls, because of various reasons. LinkedIn is the one source where I'm not using TikTok or Instagram or something like this. It's just not serious enough for me. So LinkedIn is the one place where you meet the people by name and where you really can discuss about serious stuff.
Well, of course, I'll have your links out on the blog post and out on the YouTube. Of course, they're everywhere that you are. Any other links that I can find, I'll have links to Buelent's MVP profile as well at the top of the blog post. So, with all that, well, hey, hope to see you. Well, enjoy the vacation in a month,
Thank
and
you.
I think I'll be moving around that time. So, yay! Nothing like moving as the heat starts up in the Southwest. But well, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much for the invite. I appreciate it.